our assumption is it needs a starter. That's a good starting point. So, but we need to back that up with data to be 100% certain.
I love when the good news coming in on a day-to-day. Already know what's happening, I don't gotta shake that.
All right, guys, we're gonna do a real quick and easy, real basic diagnostic here, okay? So the complaint from this customer is it does not crank and the vehicle does not start, okay? So it's a 2010 Honda Accord. It's a 4-cylinder, 120,000 miles. So here's the thing with automotive is we already have a pretty good starting point where we're at. The battery's good. We hear a click. It's a Honda, 120,000 miles. So our assumption is it needs a starter. That's a good starting point. So, but we need to back that up with data to be 100% certain it does need a starter. There's always a chance there's a connection issue or the cable going to the starter has excessive resistance. So there's not enough amperage going to the starter to turn the motor. So, but we're pretty confident it's a starter, but we're gonna prove it out now. We have not done this yet, but that's kind of where we're at because our experience has led us to this before. We've seen this multiple times doing vehicles. You kind of have the same symptoms where it clicks, clicks. It's a known issue on these Hondas, especially where the mileage is. So to do this testing, you have to get to the starter, okay? There's an S terminal we need to get to, and then the actual battery going to the starter itself. And then the case itself, we need to check the ground. So the tools we're gonna use, we have a power probe, okay? We have a voltmeter here, digital volt ohm meter. It's a Fluke 88. And then I have some leads to help. You don't have to have these, but it helps testing. It ensures that you have a good connection. You'll see why. All right, so the first test we're gonna do is this. Let's actually confirm the concern. Let's hear it, see what it does. I'm gonna laugh if it starts, because usually you touch starter, it starts starting. Go ahead, you hear that audible click? Do it again. All right, so we duplicated the customer's concern, okay, 100%. From that point, we needed to determine what direction we're gonna go. Like I said, based on an assumption, we're gonna go straight to the starter. So let's back up the assumption with data and with proof. That's what we're gonna do now. So I'm pretty confident the S terminal's getting what it needs because you can hear the starter trying to engage. But there's two ways of doing this. I can actually back probe this S terminal wire right here, which is a pretty thick wire on Hondas. When you turn that key over to get the start position, it puts ground or power to this wire and it completes the circuit on the starter relay inside there. There's a little relay inside this and it jumps the power directly to the starter motor, okay? So what we're gonna do is unplug it. We get our lead here, like so. And let's just see, go ahead and try to start it. We should see, when he tries to start this, we should see 12 volts going. And hold the key there too, okay? Yep. All right, so the only problem with this test is I'm not loading the circuit. But it does tell me the ignition switch all the way up to here is good. The other way to do this would be put an actual load device, like a light bulb. We can do that, see if it's in here.
Did it give us 12?
Probably not necessary, but I'll just do it anyway, so it's not a test I normally do. We're here, it looks good. But if you want to do, make sure 100% that that wire going to the solenoid is definitely can handle amperage. This is one way of doing it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have ground directly to one side of this light bulb, and when he tries to start this, like I said, that ignition switch is gonna send power all the way up here. Well, it's probably going through a starter relay all the way up. This light bulb, you need to know what you're gonna see on every test you do. We expect it to light up. Go ahead. All right, so it lit up, so that confirms 100%. The problem is not gonna be from the ignition switch, starter relay, none of that. And the wiring, it's all good, okay? 100% positive, nothing there. All right, like I said, it's really a process of elimination at this point until you find out what the problem is. Like I normally wouldn't have done that check, I'm just showing you how to do it. To me, it wasn't necessary. So another test people like to do is they'll send 12 volts directly at the starter. So I'm gonna back probe this pin here. What should you expect? Like everything, every test, you should know the expectations. there's ground from this case, right? And this is a circuit here, a bunch of coil wires. You should have, if there's ground here, it should be ground coming out of here. See the ground? And if I hit this power, it's gonna click. And eventually it might try to start, but we know the starter itself, at least we can use this for testing, so you don't jump in the car no more. We can do that, but what we do know is we have the appropriate voltage. Now let's check for voltage drops. The only way you're gonna find voltage drop if you actually have something that's consuming current. So that starter, doing that will consume current. So we're gonna find out. When we say voltage drop, what does that mean? So 12 volts at this battery, or 12.5 at this battery, 12.6, wherever it's at, you should have 12.5, 12.6 going into the starter right here, this S terminal. You might have 100 millivolts, 200 millivolts. That's very acceptable because you're pulling a lot of amperage. The more amperage you use, the more voltage drop you're going to have. But if you have a volt, or I say half a volt or more, you got a problem, okay? So you want to go on the same polarity. You want to go positive, positive. So I'm going to go to the positive side of the battery, and I'm going to go to the positive side of the, I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to hook this back up. I'm going to have him do it from inside the car. We're going to simulate the car. This is the post, the battery post that's on that starter. So in a bad spot, but like I said, we're going to go positive, positive. And of course, I have power right below a pipe. So, all right. Right now it's reading 0.0, right? If I hook up to a ground, you should have voltage on it. It's negative because my polarity is opposite. So, all right, go ahead and try to start her. You should see, you know, 100, 200 millivolts, but you shouldn't see much, maybe half a volt, 500 millivolts, but not much more than that. I say 120, 200, so let's see what we got. My starter sounds terrible, okay? So, we just confirmed the volts drop is good. That's not an issue with that on the positive side. Now let's check to make sure the negative, which would be the housing, the casing of this starter. So go anywhere on this casing, doesn't matter where, all of it should be grounded, okay? To make sure we're in the right spot, I'm just checking my leads. So we need same polarity, negative to negative, and this was negative battery into the casing of the starter. Go ahead, see what we got. All right. Good, we're well within specifications. Like I said, half a volt's acceptable on the starter all day. So our assumption was right, but we proved it with data. And this is a very basic, very easy diagnostic. This is not something that's difficult or amazing here. So what's good about it is we confirmed with data she needs a starter. 100% will fix this car. There's no doubt about it. So that's the easy step on this one. Now, let the customer know we're going to recommend a new starter, but also give them an option. They can't afford it, a Denso OEM replacement remanufacturer. Both will be acceptable. Like I said, we recommend new, but sometimes it's not in everybody's budget on the older vehicles. So we would install a Denso remanufactured. They're not as good. They still have problems, but the customer will have to make that decision what they want to go with. So, because they got over almost 14 years on our original one, I expect pretty close to the same on our new one. Reman, you probably get, honestly, God truth, if you get out of a year, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it's pretty much cut at 75%, probably 65% on reman stuff, no matter who makes it. So, but that's the best what you can get is the OEM Denso. But that was a basic, easy diagnostic confirming where we're at. Any questions, Dave?
No,
You follow it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. This one's a little bit different because you got to get to the starter, access to it. You got to pull the intake, which you got to do that anyway. So, yeah. So some of the testing time did provide some labor shortage for this customer here. It's making it a little more accessible to get to. So basically, that's pretty much it. This one we're going to see. We're going to update your ticket, send it in to the guys. You need a starter, 100%.
Yep.
And we always like to test our starters before we put them in.
That was good knowledge.
So, but that is how you do a voltage drop test, and you check for, make sure the ignition switch and the starter relay, all that stuff is working, and the starter itself. See, this one's a little bit different. There's sometimes I call it a starter relay. Well, it's kind of like that. It's a starter solenoid. This one's internal. A lot of them have external solenoids, and you beat on it, you can start the car. You could probably do the same thing here, but it's like a relay, a solenoid. It's very close. You're just jumping across the leads of each coil, power and grounding it, and then electromagnetic entities come in play at that point. So you're just pulling a contact together. That contact leads to the starter. The other one is the power, and it connects the contacts, and it allows the power to get to that starter, which is already grounded, and it moves the motor. So that's where we're at in this one. So hopefully the customer goes forward, we'll take care of it and get them back on the road.